Light versus darkness. The eternal battle for human sanity, in the delicate dance between illumination and shadow, lies the very essence of our psychological survivor. The interplay between light and darkness transcends mere physical illumination. It becomes a profound metaphor for the human condition, where flickering flames represent our fragile grip on reason, hope, and sanity itself. This timeless symbolism reveals how our most basic fears are rooted in the primal terror of being consumed by the unknown. The candle as sanctuary, more than illumination. A single candle flame carries extraordinary symbolic weight. It represents consciousness fighting against the void of ignorance, hope persisting despite overwhelming despair, sanity maintaining its precarious hold against madness, life refusing to surrender to death's embrace. The act of keeping a candle lit becomes an active resistance against forces that would extinguish not just light, but the very essence of what makes us human. Each flicker threatens to plunge us back into primordial darkness, both literal and metaphorical. The psychology of light. As safety scientific research confirms what literature has long understood, light profoundly affects our psychological state and sense of safety. Studies reveal that darkness doesn't simply remove visual input, it fundamentally alters our emotional processing, making us more vulnerable to fear and anxiety while simultaneously reducing our approach-oriented motivation. Research shows that brighter environments enhance feelings of safety and reduce fear responses. Darkness intensifies emotional reactivity and can trigger primitive survival instincts. Ambient lighting directly influences our willingness to engage with our environment. Light deprivation affects cognitive processing, making rational thought more difficult. The fragility of illumination. A metaphor for human vulnerability. The precarious nature of candlelight serves as a perfect metaphor for human fragility. Consider how easily a flame can be extinguished. External threats, wind, unexpected challenges, rain, overwhelming circumstances, deliberate extinguishing, malicious forces, internal vulnerabilities, insufficient fuel, depleted resources, poor wick, personal weaknesses, unstable foundation, shaky mental state. This fragility mirrors our own psychological condition. Sanity requires constant maintenance, and the forces threatening to extinguish our inner light are both external and internal. The growing terror within. When darkness comes from inside. The most sophisticated use of light versus darkness symbolism occurs when the darkness originates from within the protagonist. This represents self-doubt eating away at confidence, guilt casting shadows over judgment, fear consuming rational thought, despair threatening to snuff out hope entirely. In this context, the struggle to keep the candle lit becomes an internal battle for psychological survival. The flickering flame represents not just physical safety, but the fight to maintain 1. Mental clarity against confusion. 2. Moral compass against corruption. 3. Identity against dissolution. 4. Purpose against nihilism. The symbolism of encroaching darkness. Darkness in literature rarely remains static. It advances, creeps, and encroaches like a living entity. This progression mirrors how psychological threats operate. Stage 1. Peripheral shadows. Doubt appears at the edges of consciousness. Minor anxieties begin to accumulate. The light still feels secure. Stage 2. Flickering uncertainty. Confidence wavers under pressure. Fear begins to influence decision-making. The flame struggles but persists. Stage 3. Overwhelming darkness. Terror dominates rational thought. Despair threatens complete surrender. The light fights for survival. Stage 4. Potential extinction. Sanity hangs by the thinnest thread. Hope becomes nearly impossible to maintain. The final flicker before darkness. The act of relighting, resilience, and renewal. Perhaps the most powerful moment in any light versus darkness narrative occurs when an extinguished flame is rekindled. This represents resilience overcoming defeat, hope returning after despair, courage confronting fear, renewal following destruction. The act of striking a match in absolute darkness becomes a profound statement of human defiance, a refusal to surrender to the forces that would consume us. Modern applications, digital age darkness. In contemporary contexts, the light versus darkness metaphor has evolved. Information versus ignorance, connection versus isolation, truth versus deception, mental health awareness versus stigma. The candle might now be a phone screen providing connection during loneliness, knowledge illuminating prejudice, therapy sessions lighting the way through trauma, community support piercing through despair. The eternal vigil, maintaining our inner light. The most profound insight from light versus darkness symbolism is that maintaining illumination requires constant effort. Just as a candle needs fuel, self-care and support, protection, boundaries and safety, attention, mindfulness and awareness, renewal, rest and restoration, so too does our psychological well-being require active maintenance rather than passive hope. Conclusion. The flickering flame of human spirit. The masterful use of light versus darkness as metaphor reveals a fundamental truth about the human condition. We exist in a constant state of vigilance against forces that would extinguish our inner flame. Whether those forces are external circumstances or internal demons, our sanity, hope, and humanity depend on our willingness to tend the fragile light within. The flickering candle becomes more than mere illumination. It transforms into a symbol of defiance, a declaration that despite the overwhelming darkness that surrounds and threatens to consume us, we refuse to surrender. In that tiny flame lies the entirety of human courage, small, vulnerable, but burning bright against the infinite night. The struggle to keep the light alive isn't just about survival. It's about preserving what makes us human in a world that constantly challenges our capacity for hope, reason, and connection. In the end, we are all guardians of flickering flames, fighting to keep the darkness at bay, one small light at a time. In the delicate balance between illumination and shadow, we discover not just our fears, but our extraordinary capacity to illuminate the darkness with nothing more than the determined spark of human spirit.